Hello ladies and gentlemen, Alex from Maximal Fire here. Today we're going to be unboxing the Adeptus Titanicus Horus Heresy starter set. This is the one that is largely currently available for the Adeptus Titanicus wargame. Apologies in advance, there's a little bit of reflection on the box. It's a very shiny box from my ring light. Hopefully that won't be too distracting, and we'll get the box off as quickly as possible and press on with the unboxing. So this is coinciding with a range of videos that we're doing on getting started in Titanicus. If you haven't already seen it, or if it's available at the time that you're watching this, do check out the battle report, whereby we take one of these and we make some sides with the models which are in it. And do check out the podcast where we talk about, well, the real sort of back to basics of getting started in the miniatures hobby. So let's get it open then. So you may notice I've taken the cellophane off already. That was mostly again because of the ridiculous sheen I was getting from this light, but otherwise it is completely untouched. Lots of plastic the moment you open the box. So what have we got here? We've got on this side the bits for some Warhounds. Where's the last part of it as well? Be in here somewhere. So the game comes with, or the box set I should say, comes enough for 2 Warhound Titans. Body and skeleton bits are on this particular sprue. The armour panels are on this sprue. As you can see, you've got a range of different styles and sort of slightly more chaotic versions and slightly more imperial versions, but really it doesn't matter. I've used the spiky ones like that on my Imperial Titans before now, looks perfectly fine. But then it does have a range of iconography as well, like the Eye of Horus on the top carapace, and something a little bit more sort of generic for both sides. We can put a little bit of heraldry, maybe the Titan's name or the Legio in the scrolling, and like the Imperial Eagle on this one, and then just a plain old spiky version over here. So this is what you would get in a normal box of Warhounds. You would get these same sprues, enough to create 2. You've got your turbo laser destructors, you've got your inferno guns, plasma blast guns, Vulcan mega bolters. I think that's it. Is that it? Yes, that's it. Yeah, enough to make 2, and with some weapon options. So like everything in Titanicus, we recommend stick some magnets on it, and then you can use all of these. You don't have to necessarily glue them down to the Titan. Then you've got your Reavers. So there's actually 2 different types of Reavers in this box set. Both of them have, both styles of Reaver, I should say, use the same sprue for their skeleton. So you get 2 identical sprues, 1 for each of the Reaver Titans, which is in the box. And then the part that differs is actually the arms, the weapon sprue. So there's 2 different boxes you can buy separately for the Reaver Titan. One comes with the Gatling cannon and the Power Fist and the Apocalypse missile launcher. The other one comes with the Chain Fist, the Volcano cannon, and the Melter cannon with the turbo laser destructors on the top. So you get 1 of each. Gives you a nice bit of variety. Gives you a good amount of weapons that you can mix and match across them. Then you've got 2 armor sprues. Exactly the same kind of idea as the last one. You've got like a generic one and then a slightly more detailed one. Again, either can be used for both Traitor or Loyalist. Obviously the open flat ones are nice if you've got some big transfers that you want to put on there. But then it does have Traitor specific shoulder pads, which is quite nice. You've got the Eye of Horus over here. And then this is like the Opus Titanicus, Collegia Titanica kind of symbol over here, minus any cog. It's generic, you can use it on both, and then just your normal flat open panelled ones for, I don't know, if you want to put on some checks or something similar to that. So otherwise completely identical. a few different options for the knees, either blank or detailed. I like to mix it up, maybe put some of the more detailed stuff on my Princeps Seniorises. Then you've got these little boys. So this is the sprue for the Cerastus Knight Lancers. Again, this is the same as what you would get if you bought a box of Cerastus Knight Lancers. There are 2 on this frame. There's all of the bases are within the box somewhere underneath this this piece of cardboard in the box. Nice models, good start. 2 is usable in the game. I personally like 3 or 4 just to give them a bit more survivability, but it gives you a good start if you want to add in some additional punch. And again, check out the battle report, you'll probably see a few of these guys running around. Last but not least, well, technically not last, but 2 more sprues. This one here is your Accessory sprue. This has got like a multitude of different things. The biggest important things that you've got here are your arc templates. So you've got the big one for the Warlord and Warmaster sized bases, the 120mm oval bases. You've got the Reaver Warbringer turning arcs here, that's for your 105mm turning arcs, and then your 80mm spherical Warhound turning arcs. Around the edges you've got all of the tokens that you need to run the Titans from this box in and probably a few more actually, I've not counted them up, for their terminals. And then these little ones around here, these make nice additions if you want to use these for your reactor. So you can use these for reactor and then these for damage, or you can use them for your void shields, etc, etc. An oft not used but still quite useful piece of equipment is the Adeptus Titanicus. This is your first player token you pass between you to visualize, if you can't remember for whatever reason, who has the initiative for that round. And it also comes with a little objective token. We've always used that as a base for the size of objective tokens that we run when we're making our own. So just a nice little battered Warlord head that's seen some better days by the looks of it. And then in the main rulebook, as well as in some of the later editions and in the Loyalist and Traitor books, you've got here some nice physical representations of some of the battlefield asset stratagems. So I think that's the macro cannon, communications array, these bits here, the Apocalypse missile strong points, shield generator, plasma generator. I think that's what they're supposed to symbolize. And then in the middle here you've got these 5 counters. You can really use these for whatever, you know, some people I've seen use these as objective tokens, but the main reason for these is for identifying what Titan is what on the battlefield. You can use, if you've got say 2 Warhounds identically fitted out, you can use some of these to have, you know, some tokens next to the ones, which is number 1 on your terminal, if you want a way of finding that out. So if, like me, you end up buying multiple of these box sets, because why wouldn't you? It's amazing value. You'll end up with loads of these, loads of extra tokens, loads of extra bits and pieces. You obviously have loads of spare arc tokens, because you won't want to be using these all the time, or multiples of these. You probably only use 2 sets, I find, but all the stuff around the edges, the tokens, really useful. Really good stuff. Then you have on the blue bits and pieces, if anybody's sort of familiar with any Games Workshop game, you have your blast tokens. So you've got your Firestorm template, your 3-inch blast marker and your 5-inch blast marker. This is like your Bellicosa, volcano cannons, your quake cannons, those sort of big, usually Warlord scale weapons, but sometimes stratagems as well will ask for that. Concealment barrage, as an example, is a 5-inch template. Your 3-inch is your regular Reaver volcano cannons, your plasma blast guns, things like that. And then obviously Firestorm, anything with a Firestorm trait. These are pretty standard. If you've got some similar sized ones for 40k, you can use those as well. There's pretty much no difference with those. It's just nice to have a few of those spares. So what's under the piece of cardboard? So I've actually used this as like a lot of people just chuck this away, but I've used this in the past for backdrops when I'm taking photographs for Instagram. So don't throw it away. It makes for a nice little backdrop. So bases, I'll just chuck a few of these out of the way. You've got your 105mm Reaver oval bases and your 80mm 80mm Warhounds, and then these are the which are they? 50mm, 50mm, 60mm. I can never remember which ones those are, but those are for your knights anyway. Your stratagem cards. This will get you started, but as a warning, these kind of largely become immediately redundant. Many of these have changed with the Loyalist and Traitor Legion books, so take that with a pinch of salt. Don't rely on these. I've seen people go into tournaments using these, thinking they do something they don't, but they've since been changed. So do bear that in mind, that some of these may not be working as you kind of think they are. You got your weapon cards. Let me just open these up. So your weapon cards give you all of the options for all of the weapons that you have in this particular box set. Doesn't give you many. You will acquire many of these if you start buying multiple box sets, but it just gives you, your basic Reaver arms, your basic Reaver carapace, your Warhound arms, etc., etc. You will need to augment this deck with the additional standalone weapon packs that Games Workshop sell if you want to introduce a Warlord Titan or some of the Forge World weapons. Not all the Forge World weapons though, because some of the Reaver weapons and Warhound weapons in particular don't have cards made like this. They'll either be paper or there'll be something you have to scan from one of the books, so bear that in mind. Here we have the old rulebook, trusty rulebook. Let's just open this up. So put those down for a second. Lovely full colour rulebook. The rules generally haven't changed too much. There are 2 FAQ documents which are currently on Games Workshop's website. Do take a look at those. Some minor things which have changed, some wording changes. There's a few nice little narrative missions in here. Don't expect anything overly competitive. And then there's the basic matched play objectives and games that you can play as well. If you do get access to to get hold of some of the open war cards, if you can find them anywhere, you can find somebody who can get you a copy, whatever means, highly recommend you looking at those. These can be a bit swingy, one-sided in here. The best way to play Adeptus Titanicus by far is definitely with the open war cards. So great little rule book. I think I have 5 of these now, maybe even 6 from the amount of start sets that I've bought. They generally get handed off to anybody for free if they show even the slightest bit of interest in playing Adeptus Titanicus. So 2 terminals for the Cerastus Knight banners. You generally run these in units of 2 plus. But it gives you 2 anyway in case you want more, which is quite nice. They're the thin ones. Obviously they do thicker versions of these that you can buy, which are really nice, and they have the holes in which your dots, your little reactor tokens and structure tokens can sit in. But don't discount these. If you get some ferro sheeted, some self-adhesive ferro sheet and stick them to the back of these, you can magnetize these really nicely, and then get some like magnetic pawns which you can replace it with, and it just the amount of times I've knocked things off the board when playing AT it's ridiculous. So don't discount these. Maybe get a little bit of adhesive ferro sheet, stick it on the back, and then you can magnetize these really nicely. And then last in the terminals, you've got 2 Warhounds, 2 Reaver terminals, both identical obviously. Again, the thin style, very good for magnetising if you want to do that. They're obviously very light as well if you like travelling light to go into tournaments and things, but everything that you need to get started. You got your points cast, your scale, your command bonus, speed, manoeuvre, servitor clades, weapon skill, ballistic skill, your reactor, your plasma reactor, your void shields, your damage track, critical damage, and your weapon slots. So this is where you put your weapon cards. One of the things which makes the game for me, really, to be honest, is the terminals. I love the little narrative element that it provides. Baggy of dice. Fairly standard you've got in here. D10, that's used a lot for determining scatter and also for like first turn. This little bad boy here with the nuclear symbol on it is your reactor dice. Very easily lost on the table. I wish they would have do some versions of this in a different colour. That would be very handy. This one here is your location, standard Games Workshop scatter, and then you mixed in amongst the D6 you've got these, which those and those, which are your order tokens. Essentially, you just change the facing of the dice for whatever order that they're playing on. Nice big, I think it's 16mm dice. Roll well, feel nice, very cool. I'm not going to open the rules instructions, but this is your instruction manual for putting all of your Titans together. In here as well is also the stuff for your Knights. Great stuff. 2 quick reference sheets. Nice to have these to hand when you're playing. Just gives you some of the quick stuff that you might need to draw upon quickly, like your catastrophic damage table, your awakened machine spirit table, some of the critical effects and critical damage, descriptions, and then obviously your orders and details of things like smash attack and reactor overload. It's super handy. I know that Bronco Fish of Grimdark Terrain did he called it a lazy Princeps guide, which expanded on this, which is great as well. So if that is still up by the time that you're looking at that, do check that out. I think it needs slight updating here and there, but it generally includes a lot of extra information, which is super useful to have, like weapon tables and things like that. It's really, really useful. What have we got here? So, if I can get them out of the box. Transfers. Got your Reaver transfer sheet. You've got your Warhound transfer sheet, and you've got your Cerastus Knights. So this gives you some basic transfers if you're doing House Varoni, Maccabeus, Malanax or Coldshroud, and then some kind of generic-y sort of ones, which are really nice. And the Warhounds gives you the generic stuff at the top, but then also some for Legio Griffonicus, Furians, Astorum, Atarus, Legio Mortis. The Atarus ones in particular are quite nice because you cannot, for love nor money, get the Atarus transfer, the official coloured Atarus transfers anywhere at the time that this was recorded. And similar for the Reaver again, you know, you've got your Atarus and Astorum, Mortis, Furians and Griffonicus. I think the last thing in here is the often overlooked plastic ruler. Now, obviously 1 to 12 inches gets super overlooked. People, myself included, really favour the usual tape measure. But in Titanicus, when you've got a big old Titan, it's really nice to be able to go, I'm moving him 6 inches. You literally then just slide this bad boy out from underneath the Titan. It makes it much more straightforward. And likewise as well, if you're trying to measure distances between 2 Titans, you can just slide that underneath it and you can actually physically see, am I within 2 inches? Am I within 4 inches? Whatever. So a great box. I think I worked out that for the £100 price tag that Games Workshop sell this for, you get in excess of £150 worth of stuff. That £150 was based on the cost of the miniatures and things like the so this is sold separately on Games Workshop's web store. The accessories sprue doesn't account for how much a rulebook costs, doesn't account for how much you know, things like stratagem cards cost, how much the weapon cards cost, the dice, all the terminals. So it's super great value. There is a reason why everybody who plays Titanicus ends up buying a bunch of these if they want to continue, because it is by far and away the cheapest, best value box set for Titanicus. And I would say, to be honest, in general, I think across what Games Workshop do, there's a reason it sells out, because it is immensely popular. So if you've been on the fence about getting started with AT, hopefully that gives you an idea of what is actually in the box. And do, if you get time, check out the podcast where we talk about getting started, and also have a look at the battle report when that drops. In that, we're going to be taking the equivalent of 2 of these boxes as the basis, as the core of what we take. So hope you've enjoyed watching, guys. Hope this has been useful. Do give us a like, do give us a subscribe, just click that little bell, and we'll see you again in the next video.